Well, good morning and welcome to episode 1 of the Security Bros podcast. Excited to be kicking this off. Yeah, that's
Woo-hoo.
right. And you're like, in Security Bros, there's 3 guys on there. Are they all brothers? Wait, the one guy's got a different name. So Justin O'Connor is with us this morning, helping us kick this off. Super excited, Justin, to have you on. Thank you for joining us. Justin, for those of you that don't know, is an industry cloud and AI leader and founder of Infracodebase. And Infracodebase, like, we're super stoked about what you guys are doing, bringing, enterprise scale infrastructure as code, secure infrastructure as code. Like, that's super impressive from what I've seen from what you guys showed me as you've been developing, and just, my mind was blown. Showed John. John was like, "This is cool." And so Justin, it's super thrilled to have you on, buddy, and just you kind of get an update on where you guys are at and how that's changed and all those things. But first of all, thank you for being on.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here at the inaugural for this. It's really exciting and really excited about what you guys are doing to bring more awareness about security tooling, and where security is heading as we move into 2026. And because I would say, like, I'm not going to get super into my background because we don't have a lot of time today, but I do want to talk a little bit about security kind of posture overall, and then a little bit about our product and like how we help teams to solve a lot of these security problems. So I would say, like, right now, cloud adoption is mostly hybrid or multi-cloud. Most companies have more than one cloud. That, of course, increases complexity and increases the surface areas and likelihood of security incidents. So I'd say somewhere about 80% of orgs run hybrid or multi-cloud, and only about the other 20% are on a single cloud today. And 54% see hybrid cloud as a primary component of their strategy around their the model that they have. With all of that, incidents are starting to rise, and most orgs are feeling it, right? So there's about 85 to 90% of orgs are reporting a year-over-year increase in cloud security incidents. So that's a big problem. That's only getting worse with AI and vibe coding and the ability to quickly generate a bunch of AI slop. There's not a lot of trust in the IAC space right now for the ability to generate robust enterprise-grade infrastructure code. And so that's one of the things that you'll see with our product that we're hoping to help try to resolve. We've seen DDoS attacks up massively as well, almost 2%, two times from what it was in 2024. In 2025, hitting about 36 million attacks. So not only is AI helping us to write bad code faster, it's also helping bad actors to be able to attack even faster. And so you see companies like Wiz and others that are really growing dramatically quickly, Aikido and others that are really tackling the security space. GitHub Advanced Security is massively taken off as well. And I would say one other thing that we can kind of talk about today in the context of the product and some of the problems that it solves is that Gartner kind of widely cites an estimate of up to like 99% of cloud security failures are mostly related to misconfiguration or poor controls. And so, again, you have like controls in the cloud and misconfiguration of things that people do in the cloud, but you also have this AI problem of people maybe aren't thinking as much or aren't reviewing everything as carefully, or they're pushing things that maybe aren't quite fully baked. And that can cause a lot of problems, which is, again, why these security tools and these CI processes inside of these VSCS version control systems is really taking off, right? And so I'm happy to show you a little bit about what we're building and how it's helping to solve enterprise-grade security, but I'd love some questions if you have any around kind of the state of security and what we're maybe seeing and hearing from some of the customers that are using our product.
It's funny because you listed off all those stats, and it's just been an ongoing trend of misconfiguration, right? If you go read like Mandiant's M-Trend reports every year, right? Every single year we have misconfiguration is the single biggest, vector of breach over and over and over and over and over again. And I think this year it finally moved to number 2. But number 1, number 1 was stolen credentials. Number 2 is misconfiguration, right? And misconfiguration keeps allowing, even with the stolen credentials, to gain access to things. And so it's not a sole an isolated thing where you just say, oh, if we can fix the identity thing, then that'll take care of the secondary, nor is it the other way around, right? And so security, obviously, always complex issue, but the challenge we have now, and it's funny because you said, AI slop, which I've heard that term a few different times now, and it's so true. I'm not a very good coder. I'm not like you, Justin. I went to school for coding, and I wrote nothing ever. And actually, that's not true. I wrote an access database portal for the college to use to track internships. So
there you go.
that's the most coding I've ever done.
C# in there or something.
But it's funny because I'm like, I know enough about coding that I can be dangerous. And so I've been messing around with like Claude Code and doing that, right? And it spits back this code, and I'm like, this is messy. Like, this is unstructured. It's just not clean. There's all this bloat in here. Like, what is this line even doing?
And I have no idea what it does. Yeah.
Right. I know enough about coding to look at that and say, hey, this isn't a good idea. But not enough to really like go through it, fine tooth, and figure it out. So I'm going back and forth between me and Claude Code, going, hey, what does this line do? Why is it here? Is this the most efficient way to do it? And of course, you guys know, what does it say? Oh, you're absolutely right. This is totally wrong. Let me clean this up, right? And so put that in your infrastructure for your enterprise application, and you got a real problem, right? And I have the best wife in the world, by the way. She just brought me fresh hot coffee. So.
Yeah, it's highly sycophantic. It wants to make you feel good and tell you that everything is great and perfect and all of these types of things. But the reality is, it's not even just about cloud security. It's about your company security posture, risk posture, and requirements. There's a lot of layers to cloud and cloud security and what's acceptable or not acceptable. If you're a startup or you're building something basic for yourself, you don't necessarily need a lot of security. And if you're an enterprise, security is table stakes for your company's brand and for your customers' data and for everything else that you're doing. And so there's also going to be some flexibility there. And one of the things that's going to be interesting, we can talk about in the context of like how this product helps with this. It doesn't just help one person become really great. I think one of the problems with AI tooling, like the Claude Code, Cursor, just getting better, knowledge bases are starting to become a more common concept within the AI coding space. But is that not everybody in your company has been there as long as you maybe. So let's say like 5 to 10% of your developers are your experts in all of the things they need to be experts in to really deliver what you need them to deliver at a very high quality, at very high security. So the people that have been at the company for at least 5 years, the people that have been working in the cloud for at least 5 years are at some level of architect at this point because they've been through the trenches, they've learned all the hard lessons. Now they're a leader on their team and they're helping other people. But you also have the other people, the newcomers to the organization, the fact that you have consultants and people that come in from other places, the fact that you have geographically distributed and disconnected teams that may not all be, kind of associated with your company in the same way. And so it starts to become really difficult at that scale, especially at the enterprise scale, to make sure that you can make everybody as good as that best 5 to 10% of your engineers. If everybody's just being given a GitHub Copilot license and saying, all right, go use that to write AI. And then the last thing I would say is frustrating for people that try to use Claude Code and other things for IAC is that it just doesn't have the context of infrastructure management in that sense. Like Terraform itself is a language. It has providers and it has versions of those providers. And in that, there's different resources with different attributes. So what you get out of AI typically when you try to generate infrastructure code is not only something that could be misconfigured, but that just doesn't even compile. It doesn't even run because it doesn't have the right attributes and the right combination of things that it needs to be successful. So we can go ahead and sign in here and take a look at maybe how we're solving a little bit of this problem with Infracodebase and helping every engineer to be the best engineer and deliver with high levels of quality and security. There's a couple of concepts here. I'm going to keep it very brief because this isn't a total product demonstration, but I'd say like the enterprise is where like all of your billing. So if you were to come look at the settings, this is where all of your billing and your invoicing and your usage is at, as well as your integrations with things like GitHub and all of the things that the agent has. So basically everything down this row is about the agent. So you can create sub-agents, which are your ability to create your own personas of people that you want to be on your agent's team. So you could imagine like creating a security sub-agent engineer and be able to put that into your flow. So here we have like a cloud engineering role, but you could add a security engineer, whatever you want. It's also where you can add rule sets. And so rule sets are a way for you to publish things at the enterprise level and enforce them or make them optional for all of the people that are using the product. So for example, in this case, we've got this Terraform configuration language style guide turned on, and it's required for every workspace that anybody uses. So this is how you can start to federate and have that confidence in kind of the guardrails and the consistency of quality and security without having to have every individual person and team figure that out for themselves, right? So in this case, and I'm going to do this for a demonstration because we're going to actually show this in the product, is we have an Azure baseline for App Gateway, and we have a security baseline for storage. We have some other security baselines for API management. You could say, I want to go to Azure Security Baseline for Key Vault. And this is going to take you to Microsoft standard recommendations for what to do from a security perspective for a Key Vault in Microsoft Azure, right? So here it talks about network security, securing cloud service and network controls, Defender for cloud monitoring, identity management, all these different things you would want to have in a robust and well-configured infrastructure. What I'm going to do here is, instead of creating a rule set by hand, I'm going to come in, I can upload a file, or I can just point at a URL on the web. It could be AWS, it could be Google, it could be Terraform, it could be Pulumi, like whatever's published out there on the web, you can use to then back propagate into the product so that you can make this a guardrail rule or requirement for all of the teams that execute inside of your environment. So this really helps you to, one, create an inventory or like a knowledge base of standard things that you want people to consume from, as well as a way to enforce policies on teams when you have those ones you want to enforce, right? So you can see here, it extracted 17 different rules from that document. I'm going to import those. And then if I wanted to, I could turn these on or off, right? So I could, if I didn't think this rule was important for my organization, I could turn this off. I'm going to leave it on in this case. And so now we have this new rule. So that's rule sets. Tools are how you can connect to other services that you already use today. So if you use Google Cloud, if you use Microsoft Azure, whatever it is, you can connect to those MCP servers, and then you can use those MCP servers to execute commands inside of the agent itself. It can connect to your cloud, to your Confluence or Jira, Bitbucket, GitLab, whatever you happen to have.
Love it. And I love that, just looking down this list, right? You've got a lot of your bases covered. You got cool things like Notion in there, right? So I'd love as you go through the demo, obviously see some of these things, but it just strikes me as you're saying that we're set up to use AI here, and we're using AI. I mean, you just used AI to analyze a page and come up with a bunch of policies, which we all want to do, right? And now you just did it in like 3 seconds and created a bunch of policies. Like, that's amazing, because obviously one of the challenges we face is in cloud, so much new stuff comes out, right? New tools, new services. I don't know Amazon's record right now, but it used to be like 1,200 new services a year or something crazy that they would be releasing. All these cloud providers are always bringing new services, new features, new functions. And so how do you keep up with that? And then, I got to go rewrite all my Terraform code because those things just changed. There's new controls to put in place, et cetera. Well, you just imported them all from a document. So as long as the vendor updates their documentation, you can go in, you've got the latest policies, you can then check your configurations to make sure this new service that's out there that just launched is in fact designed, deployed, configured by best practices. I mean, that's amazing. So right out of the gate, I'm seeing like, wow, that was really cool. I don't want to miss the subtlety there. And then I'll give you a little plug, Justin, since you said, hey, this isn't a full product demo. If you do want to see a full product demo, there will be a link in the description. So you can click that link. Justin and team will be happy to run you through that. So anybody that tunes in, checks this out. If you want to see it for your environment or just ask questions of Justin and his team, click that link and check it out.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to start doing a couple things in tandem so that we can kind of be multi-tracking here. But I'm going to create a new workspace. What we're going to try to create together today is a secure API landing zone in Azure. I'm going to just create this workspace. A workspace, it looks very much like Lovable, right? So it's got a chat on the left. It's got an area, a code area on the right where everything is going to get generated for us, and a place where we can like select our MCP tools and whatever we want to use as a part of this demo. For example, I'll pick the Terraform Enterprise Cloud connector that we have here right now. But part of what I wanted to show you with this was that we had these security rules that we added, right, to the enterprise. Now, they were enabled, but they are not required. So that's because maybe if you're in a hybrid cloud, we talked about 80% of companies are in a hybrid cloud scenario. You may want to publish standards at the enterprise level and make them available to all of the workspaces that you're federating out. The workspace is kind of like where your teams work, not where your admins and your people, kind of leaders, build your best practices out for your enterprise. Here, so we're going to build API management. And if we go to, let's look at an API management landing zone architecture in the architecture center. So you can see here, here's a landing zone architecture for API management from Microsoft, and here's all the services, right? Now, this document doesn't get terribly into security, right? So it gets a little bit, it has a little bit in here, but not to the level of all of the rules that we've codified inside of our rule sets, and especially not in terms of the diagram. It doesn't communicate a lot in that regard. So we're going to turn on our API management security baselines, as well as our application baselines, our Key Vault baselines, and let's see, are we using storage in this solution? No. So I think we're going to just use these 3 security configurations for this particular use case.
I got a question for you, Justin.
Yeah.
So you turn those 3 on, you get this thing deployed, and you're like, actually, I need to put some more policy and some more guidelines in here. I'm assuming you go back and do that, and maybe you're going to show that. But I just, as you're going through that, I thought, but what happens if I do need to add more policy to this?
Yeah. So one thing too is that the enterprise publishes policies, but like let's say the enterprise doesn't have a policy that you need. So you actually can create rule sets at the workspace level as well. So you can come in here and either import or create a rule set just like you could at the enterprise, but for the workspace. So there's 3 tiers of governance and control and guardrails. You have the enterprise, which always beats the workspace if there's a conflict, and then the workspace beats the personal rule sets if there's a personal rule that tries to override a workspace or an enterprise rule. So the personal rules are actually interesting because they let you do like whatever you want to do from if you like wanted to call you by name, if you want to have a specific way you like to write infrastructure code or whatever, right? So here it's like I kind of specified, here's how I like to write my Terraform resource names. Here's how I like to be called. Like, don't ever like try to echo secrets or anything in a terminal, things like that. Like, these are my personal rules that I just wanted to have inside of my environment. So you can set these up at 3 different levels, and there's multiple levels of like overriding control, basically starting with the top and going all the way down to the user settings.
Yeah, very cool.
So I'm going to go ahead and just tell this like create this. So today we're building this API management landing zone. I'm going to go back out to this architecture and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste the URL. I'm also going to go into, I took a snapshot of this architecture. I'm going to upload that as an image and I'm going to give all of that to the AI. So the first thing that our agent is going to do is try to understand the architecture diagram. It's going to do some research about like what it is that we're trying to build. And then it's going to start creating this, right? And what we should be able to see is that based on all the security rules that we put in place, it's not going to write what it would normally write, which is kind of a vanilla configuration for the Key Vault or for the API management ecosystem or whatever. But it's going to abide by our security rules that we applied to our workspace so that we can show that we're kind of following all of those enterprise best practices, right?
Love it. And I love that we're doing this live. Like, you're not just telling me that this tool can do it, but you're actually showing us live here, a live demo. This is going to write what I think it's going to write. And you're just like, you didn't even hesitate. So I love that. I'm excited to see.
Yeah, we've done hundreds of these demos with customers. I mean, I don't want to like, it's AI and it's a demo, which is like all
goes wrong. Yeah.
The demo and the AI gods are on top of you, right? So it's always like, you never want to be too like confident saying it out loud, but I've never, you know what I'm going to say. It's never been a problem. Yep, it's started to create the basic resources that we're going to need. So you can see that just from giving it a URL, and I kind of want to stress this, like just from giving it a URL and the image and saying create this, what you're about to see is what we're going to get, right? Yeah. So number one is it creates this Terraform config block. It adds the Terraform provider. It created a current client config for the Key Vault, and it also is creating the log analytics workspace and is setting up some Azure CAF naming rules, which actually is going to be interesting because we're going to have it update this at a future date to like use our personal naming conventions from our Terraform Enterprise Cloud. If we have time, we may not have time today. If I go to networking, you can see here it's using the CAF naming. It's creating a virtual network. It's creating the app gateway NSG name stuff. Yep, here we go. The network security group.
And I love that it's like it's well architected already. You know, you've got Key Vault in here, you got a workspace, you got application insights. I mean, think about the normal path to deployment, right? And John, you were like, "Yep, I saw your smile." John has lived this, so I've been on the consulting side a lot, where I'm coming in and helping customers do these things after the fact, right? Or I'm the guy that they're like, "Hey, we built this thing, and now we need you to come in and help us get the get the log analytics workspace set up, or add application insights, those kinds of things. John lived on the other side for a while, and so he's felt that pain of like, we built this thing, we're not monitoring it, we don't have the insights. Like from a security perspective, that's really bad, and especially today because AI, AI slop. Forget even AI slop. Just you can go out and deploy something, and it hits the public cloud, right? And how many times does this happen to our customers who are using cloud providers, right? They deploy something, it's got a public IP address, it's wide open to the world, and admin permissions are admin for everyone who logs in, right? And so that thing goes out because they're in a hurry to build something, and bad stuff happens,
Yeah, and I also appreciate that this is dividing things up, so and not just dumping it all into main.tf. So is that like a rule or something that you've set up, or is that just sort of the default? Like that's what's going to happen. Anybody that tries to create some Terraform, it's going to sort of automatically do that, because that is I've lived that pain as well of like, oh yeah, I've created everything, but it's all in one file, and nobody's going to ever know how to read it or sort through it or find any kind of problems if there is one.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we have rules in here that say like logically break down the resources into files that make sense for that. And so if it's a small project or a module, it tends to like try to put all that in main, because that's how, what the convention is typically like. If it is an actual like landing zone, or if it's an application infrastructure, it tends to do this where it wants to break them out. But the great news is with the AI is that, let's say it didn't do this and you just wanted it, you had a specific thing that, I didn't tell you up front that I had this like desire for it to be a certain way, that you can actually then go back and just tell it, hey, could you break this out like logically into files by service so that like everything isn't bucketed into one, and it'll happily just go and move everything for you, right? So, yeah. So, and you can see here what it's doing now is it's actually running Terraform init and Terraform validate. It's iterating over the code, and then it's like checking anything that it needs to change in order to get the code into compliance and make it validate so that this will actually ship to your cloud environment. And it'll keep iterating through this as long as it needs to do that to like make sure that everything is actually ready to go. We didn't look a lot at these configurations from a security perspective, but you can see here, like we have network access restrictions, deny with bypass only for Azure services, allowing it from only the API management subnet. We've got, key vault policies that have been applied, different access policies at different levels. And you can see these are minimal permissions for the most part, right? We've got get and list permissions. We've got get permissions. It's not like throwing everything out under the sun just to try to get this to work. Something else that's really interesting and cool that you can do here is like run tfsec to confirm this passes. So we have a bunch of tools built in out of the box. So check off tfsec, things that people are used to using for infrastructure management and for validation of infrastructure. What's cool is you can kind of see the terminal over the left-hand side, like what it's actually doing. So it found two critical issues related to application gateway, allowing public ingress on ports 80 and 443, but they're actually expected and necessary. So this is actually a cool. Yeah, it's cool because it didn't just say, "Oh, I got a security warning from TFSec, so I'm going to go rip stuff out." Right? It's actually saying, "No, I'm understanding that this is something that needs to happen. It's there for a reason. I'm going to handle it in a way that is appropriate for like what we're building." Right? Yeah. So this is it, like proactively and just kind of going through the motion of, hey, like let's create this correctly.
So Justin, that's awesome, first of all. And then second of all, it built a lot of stuff. And so I'm thinking, oh, wow, you got a bunch to digest here as a result. So you put that graphic in there. Is it also going to show you a little diagram that's like, hey, here's what I built and here's all the pieces and where these files go, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so a couple different things. Number one, if you look over in the left-hand panel, it gives you a really good breakdown, right? 16 security checks passed, 3 rules appropriately were ignored, 0 critical, high, medium, or low severity issues identified. And then it gives you this nice list of like what it did from key vault security, network security, application security, and the overall configuration status and all the things it ran. It gives you a nice summary of the work it just did. Also, it gives you READMEs, so you can render these READMEs in Markdown, and you can see what the architecture overview of the solution is, the security features that are embedded in that, how to actually get to use it, what its configuration is like, its architectural components, and then a bunch of the security considerations in here as well, monitoring and cost management as well. So it's even telling you here, like, the application gateway, the WAF, and the premium API management tier are going to incur significant costs. Consider using lower tiers. So it gives you a lot of good information to go off of. And then, yes, of course, it also created a diagram for this as well. So if we think back to what we were supposed to create from this diagram here, we've got an application gateway subnet, we've got an API management subnet, we've got private endpoint subnet with a private endpoint in it for Key Vault, right? We've got log analytics workspace with application insights, and we've got all this other stuff. If we come over here, you can see that we have everything there. We have the virtual networks. If you click on these, by the way, it actually gives you a very interactive view of what's going on. So you can see that our virtual network is linked to 2 private DNS zones, that it contains these 3 subnets. If I look at the private endpoint subnet, I can see that there's a private endpoint for the Key Vault deployed to it, and that connects to the Key Vault. And if I look at the application insights, I can see that it is logging from API management, right? So API management is logging to this and to log analytics workspace, and that the application gateway has a WAF policy and public IP on it so that people can get into this system. And remember, this is where we got a security warning because we had a public IP exposing this application gateway, but that's exactly what the architecture intended for us to do with a public IP on this in this gateway. So it didn't just take the feedback and go crazy. It actually understood the task, and it broke it down, and it delivered what we expected it to deliver.
This is super cool. And just even that diagram at the end, having those descriptions, I mean, that's probably one of the challenges with AI code, right? Is you now have this thing that sometimes it generates good stuff. I mean, I know, yes, AI slop exists, but sometimes there's good things in there. No, actually, most of the time there's good things in there, but it's a lot of code. And so now you got to dig through this all, figure out where it is. And so it's helpful to have different views, right? It's helpful to look at this and go, okay, API management. No, actually, let me go back from this node back into that code and try to work these pieces out, make sure I'm understanding what is being built. And then I'm thinking, as I look at this diagram, that maybe you build this all out, and then security team comes along and says, actually, we have our own log analytics, our own Key Vault that already exists, so we want to connect it to that, right? It seems like now we can click around or go in and say, hey, you got this config file from the security team. Can you update this diagram to feed into this log analytics? And how hard would that be, right? So just super cool to see that happen. And we've been recording 20 minutes, and we've got an entire infrastructure built here according to best practices with considerations for security. You've already checked it twice. Both to validate the configuration and then also the security of those configurations. And so right out of the gate, we're getting just really good shift left security, right? Which is really impressive to see. And then layers of security as well. So we didn't just deploy something with some good security for the application gateway. We actually have all the other components you need for visibility, for ongoing security management, for key management. That's super impressive that did all that in 15 minutes, right? And probably you could have done it faster if you weren't explaining it to us, right? So.
Well, and I want to kind of go back to this. I mean, how many times have I actually had to prompt this AI to get to this result, right? So if you embed these rules, tools, workflows, and agents in the enterprise, you make those things available to your teams, and your teams follow those consistent standards, you really can get to this high level of quality and predictability when it comes to security and the surfaces and in your company policies, right? Because it's not always going to be the same. So it's really interesting. And then one other thing that's just interesting that you may want to know about is that you can actually do different types of diagrams as well. It can create as many as you want, but you may want to say a threat vector diagram. So you could see here we're getting a request from the internet to a public IP, which is assigned to an application gateway, which is deployed in and receives SSL certs from this. So right now, you can use this for things like threat modeling and trying to figure out is there a path into this particular environment, right? So you could create network diagrams, you could create data flows. To your point, when it comes to AI, when it generates a bunch of code, it's mentally it can be a block, right? Because you feel like you spend as much time reviewing and understanding what was created as what was actually created. And so, whether you're in any of the major clouds, Google, AWS, Azure or any cloud, anything supported by IAC providers, and whether that's any language, Terraform, Pulumi, OpenTofu, whatever it is, the product supports all of that.
No, that's super cool. And then, the thing that's not in this diagram is like a container or a Kubernetes cluster that might have its own vulnerabilities. You talked about integrations with some of these other tools. You mentioned at the beginning, like Wiz, Aikido, some of these, security tools for, finding vulnerabilities, things of that nature. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, obviously, we can see what this is capable of doing via its AI, but how does that play in and integrate into what you guys have built here?
Yeah, so any SaaS product that exposes an API can become an MCP server. One of the biggest hacks in the AI native build is that almost every company, modern SaaS company, has publicly facing APIs that surface those capabilities to their customers, right?
Love it.
And so because they've done that, they've also realized that, hey, we can also provide this to agents by giving it an MCP server, which is really just a wrapper that enforces a protocol, and it allows it to communicate with their existing API ecosystem. So not only have you made it easier for your customers to adopt your APIs, but you've also made it easy for them to integrate that into any agentic flows that they might have. So for us to add a new MCP server that's been developed by a company takes minutes, not hours or days, to be able to push new things out. And so, like, as people have interest in new MCP servers, we bring those in. As companies are building out their own MCP servers, we're bringing those in. And in some cases, we'll build them for ourselves, depending on what the need is. That's a whole interesting conversation too. Maybe for another one of these episodes.
I know. I'm like, okay, let's keep going because I want to see that.
MCP security is something that's a really hot topic right now. How do you actually secure the data and the actions behind all the things that go into this? I'll say from our product perspective, we actually take an interesting approach, which I don't know if it's novel or common, but what we do is we actually spin up an individual instance of an MCP server for every single session, so that any secrets or any kind of activity that happens on that server is specific to that instance of that particular thing running in its own like sandboxed environment. So we don't even reach out over the web to go to like public versions of these. We run them in real time in a sandboxed environment so that that everything that's going into that MCP server from this side is not being leaked out into anywhere else or going to across the internet to somebody else's like place.
Yeah, that's super, super valuable, and also like what good architecture, because the number of times where that kind of stuff doesn't get thought through or implemented, you're working away, you type your session key in there, and you're like, oops, I shouldn't have done that. But now it's in there, right? And so you're saying, hey, we thought about that. You got an MCP server that's doing all this work, and when you're done, it's destroying it. The code is the result. And the next MCP server is able to analyze that code and understand the context without having to go and store all that stuff. That's super important as well, because especially the enterprise, like that becomes a massive vulnerability when you're typing code and building all these new things. Is what did I leave as artifacts just from my research, from my coding? It's hard enough to take developer laptops and secure them, right? Now, never mind all the other things that get created and added here. So, yeah,
absolutely,
really good.
Yeah. I'd say that the TLDR is like, we really view this as the future of cloud engineering, letting people focus on the higher level things. What are our security requirements? What are our customers' needs? What is it that we're trying to build? This is the context that matters when it comes to building something. Our goal is to really compress the infrastructure plumbing and get that out of the way so that companies can build applications that generate revenue and help their internal employees have a better employee experience at their company. So the cloud is kind of a necessary evil, but it can't be done. It can't be like vibe coded. It can't be AI slop. It has to be really aligned with enterprise requirements so that you can not only build it quick, but that you can actually ship it and that you trust what is being generated by the AI in the first place, and that you can scale that expertise to everybody in your team and not a small group of like AI super users that are like very deeply embedded into your company. It's been a pleasure to talk with you about this. It's super exciting to see where this is going. Would love to talk more some other time about MCP security or even the other direction, like taking existing cloud stuff and like how do you secure that and bring that into IAC is a whole nother flow that we do that's very interesting.
Yeah. I have one more question for you, Justin, because I'm super curious to get your thoughts on this. So I think the way that we kind of, I guess, used to, I guess we can call it legacy now, right? AI is changing things super fast. But there's like this idea of a catalog, and having enterprise catalog of like best practice things that you can just pull and use. So like security's already signed off on them. They've blessed those kind of configurations, and they're available for anybody to use, any team to use in a catalog. This is obviously very different. I think this is probably way better, but just curious your thoughts on kind of that difference and how you're doing that differently.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've done a lot of enterprise consulting. I've built a lot of landing zone application infrastructures across every cloud, and I've worked with every security team, and they're all different and fun. I would say like security requirements come in all different forms at different companies, and there are different levels of like rigor requirement. For us, the reason why we made it so that it was so simple to bring your rules in is because we didn't want you to waste your time thinking, oh, I've got to move, I got to migrate all these things that we spent all this time on into this new product. And like, now that's going to be the thing. Like, it makes it really simple, because if you can just download your document and upload it, and now all of those same rules are just in the product, you've really almost done zero effort to go from having security documentation that people had to read and understand and hopefully implement correctly, to security documentation that they not only can read and understand, but also that is automatically abided by the agent that they're interacting with to build out their ecosystem. You don't have to solve the knowledge base problem. You don't have to solve the how do I connect it to their agents problem. You don't have to solve the how do I make sure every developer is actually using it problem. How do I monitor that and make sure it all works? It really serves as a single pane of glass for all of your existing applications and integrations into the product, and your existing rules and baselines for security, and any other rules that you have. Like, we've seen that wasn't something that we came up with from a marketing perspective. The people that we show this to tell us that, wow, what this actually is a single pane of glass, that now I don't have to go to this tool and that tool and talk to this person and understand that and figure this out. It's all right here, and I could do all of my work in one place. We're not changing your enterprise process. If you use Lucid, use Lucid. If you're putting your documents in Confluence, put them in Confluence. But when it comes to getting the IAC work done, and you want to do it right and secure and not have a bunch of negative feedback loops into your siloed organization and into all of these silos of knowledge, then bring it into this one place, and now people can move super fast, and you can be super confident that you trust what it's producing.
Love it. I mean, that's doing enterprise scale infrastructure as code, right? Because that's always been the challenge, right? And AI does kind of come along and say, okay, I can do this faster. I can shift more things left. I can modernize some application stacks, et cetera. Good. But there's that element of, am I doing this right? That really is a challenge, right? And so this is definitely solving that. And just, I mean, I have so many more questions. So I'm gonna plug it again, because I have more questions. So I want to see more demos. But if you want to see a demo, again, click the link in the description. Justin, thank you so much for coming on, man. This has been super cool to see, and just blown away by just the advancement that already from the last time I saw it to today. And I just love it. I mean, I love that you guys are doing this. And even just the direction that this is going, where we're not just building things to help you code more and make more AI slop. We're actually saying, hey, time out. Let's layer in all the other things that need to be part of good, secure infrastructure, good infrastructure as code practices from day zero. That's going to solve a lot of problems. And so I'm really, really impressed by what you guys are doing. Love seeing the success that you're having, Justin. And so again, thank you for jumping on with us in this inaugural episode. It's been super fun to see. And go security, right? Because we want that up front. We need that up front today, especially as everybody's building new things and experimenting with more. So kudos to you guys for the launch, and looks amazing. Again, if you want to see the description, if you want to see a demo, go into the description, click the link, check it out, and Justin and team will show you even more of the goodies that you have at your fingertips here. So Justin, thanks again, dude, and we'll catch you all in the next episode of Security Bros.
Yeah, thanks for the forum, and thanks for what you're doing for the security community. Really appreciate it.